Mace is the most underrated weapon in Crystal PvP. Don't believe me? Well, you're about to learn why. Tons of people try using the mace, but they don't know how to use it effectively. Well, mace may seem simple, but it's pretty hard to master. Luckily for you guys, ever since it came out, I've been practicing and mastering certain mechanics with the mace, and I'm gonna show you how to do all of it today. By the end of the video, you will go from not being able to get a single mace kill to doing it in ways that you never even thought were possible. First off, let's talk about how the mace works. As we know, the mace is a weapon that was added in the version 1.21, and it's a weapon where the amount of damage is produced by how far you are falling from. Speed has nothing to do with the mace. You may think so, but it doesn't. The mace is fully based off of how far you're falling from. Some ways the mace does not work is if you are either slow falled or if you still have your elytra on. I'll get more onto that stuff later. But for now, let's go over some different ways to mace people. Starting with the normal mace. This is by far the most simple one. All you have to do is find a way to get high up in the air, drop down, and hit them before you hit the ground. The thing is about macing like this is that it's very slow, meaning the opponent will have way too much time to react and potentially run far enough to where they're out of reach. There isn't a ton to describe about this and how to do it, but you can definitely practice on timing and many different things. I like to practice my macing on the Theobald the Bird map since it recently updated to 1.21, but if you are not able to download that, then you can definitely fly around servers like East US PvP or any other sandbox server and mace dead bushes. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but it actually helps your timing so much and you never run out of dead bushes. Unless you're me. A good way to get up into the air is by using the elytra, and in order to mace very fast, you have to be an expert using the elytra. And if you want a full tutorial on how to use elytra and other things in Crystal PvP, I made a tutorial for that too. Now, as I said earlier about normal macing, it's way too slow. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to do it faster. Elytra is probably one of the biggest parts about macing besides being able to hit the opponent. You can use the elytra in multiple different ways, but what I'm going to show you right now is basically just flying up and then flying back down and getting the mace hit. This basically takes normal macing, puts it in a blender, and makes it way faster. When you are using the elytra to mace someone, you have to make sure that you take off the elytra before you hit them. You can take it off pretty late and still get a lot of damage. All you have to do is make sure that you take it off before, because if you don't, you're gonna go down so much aura. Me personally, how I like to mace is flying up into the air, taking off my elytra whenever I'm at the top of how far I'm going up, and then putting it back on, flying down, taking it off again, and hitting them. That might sound complicated, so you might have to listen to that multiple times. Something that happens to a lot of people is when the mace doesn't pop their enemies. A good way to know you are high enough to go back down is by hearing the noise that the firework makes. Once that noise ends, you can go back down and expect a pop. The only reason you wouldn't have to listen to the firework noise is if you're already elevated. So imagine this is like a tree or a mushroom or something, and I barely have to fly up to be able to pop them. See, I barely even went in the air and it still gave me a pop. Something that I can't stand that Crystal PvPers do is that whenever they go for a mace, they waste so many fireworks. They're using fireworks to go up, go down, go to the side, go left, go right. They're wasting way too many. And if there's anything we learned about my normal Crystal PvP tutorial, it's that you can skid. You can go in multiple directions with one fireworks by re-equipping your elytra. So go up in the air, re-equip your elytra, go back down, and mace them. You're only using one firework doing this. Now that we are done with that, what is the best mace to use? Well, the best mace kind of depends on what armor you wear. That kind of sounds weird, but it'll make sense once you hear this. There are 3 kinds of maces you can choose from. One with density, one with breach, and one with windburst. The type of mace you use is heavily affected by the armor you wear, because in the recent 1.21 update, blast protection changed completely. If you have no blast protection on, you take a ton of knockback. If you have one piece on, then you take a little bit of knockback, and if you have 2 pieces on, then you take 0 knockback. That's right, nothing. If you wear 1 piece of blast protection, then the best mace to use is probably density. So once you mace them, you can hit the ground and pearl away quickly. If you use a mace with windburst with only 1 piece of blast protection, then it'll knock you and your opponent in the air and they have time to crystal you. So it's probably not smart to do that. This leads us on to our next mace and armor combo, which is double blast protection and windburst mace. This is by far the most overpowered. This makes it so when you hit a player, it will send them up in the air, but since you have double blast protection, you stay on the ground. And you know what happens then? You spam crystals. This then creates something called the Mace D-tap, which also happens to be my favorite part about the mace. I have a lot of clips of Mace D-tap, so I'll show some examples. Oh my gosh! The only other mace is breach, and I don't think it's very good. I haven't experimented much with it, and I don't think it's very effective, so I'm not going to talk about it in this video. So, concluding what kinds of mace to use and what armor is best, make sure to use a mace with windburst 3 and density 5. Also, make sure you're wearing double blast protection on your armor. Now that we have concluded the basic things about the mace, we're going to move into how to counter mace counters. This is like when someone pulls out a shield or places crystals around them, or even if they use cobwebs. Here's how to counter that. When someone pulls out a shield, there are two major ways to counter it. One is getting behind them, and two is using a double click method with an axe to disable them and hit them with the mace at the same time. One is easy, one is extremely hard and takes hours of practice. So when someone pulls out a shield, I recommend trying to get behind them. It is very hard to block when someone is behind macing you. Once again, good ways to practice this is on the Theobald map or on any sandbox server. Try to fly at an angle where you land around 2 to 3 blocks on the other side of where you're macing from. So if you're macing on the north side in the air, you're going to want to fly in the south direction and try to land 2 to 3 blocks from where the player is standing, and while you are falling, try and turn your camera around to where you are looking at the opponent while they are staring off into space. This will grant you a free mace hit. The other counter people use a lot is placing crystals around them. I gotta admit, this is pretty smart. The hitboxes of the crystals are just big enough to where you cannot hit the player, but there is a very simple counter. While you are falling, about to mace them, pull out your crossbow and shoot the crystals. This will leave it wide open for a free mace hit. And yes, this is actually useful for fights. I've done it multiple times to players. Sometimes, if you combine it with the correct mace and blast prop boots, you can even get a mace D-tap off of it, making it a really clean clip. Another counter for mace is slow falling, but you can easily get away from the opponent and drink milk. Try and do this whenever they don't see you, that way you can still sneak up on them.
I hate that. I hate that. I hate it.
For cobwebs, there isn't really a good counter that anyone has found yet, but you can always turn on hitboxes to see if any of their hitboxes hanging outside of the cobweb. Then you can easily get a free mace hit. Some players might try to fly in the air to get away from the mace, but this isn't completely uncounterable. Even though it's small, there is still a hitbox. I'm able to hit people in the air with the mace a lot because I know where the hitbox is. It should be right below where their name tag is. If you need help, you can turn on hitboxes. Now for the last minute of this tutorial, I'm gonna try and put everything we learned in this video to the most simple it can be so you can understand it really well. First off, the higher you're falling from, the more damage the mace will do. A normal mace is where you fly up into the air and then fall down to where you hit them before you hit the ground. A fast mace is where you do the same process but fly down at the enemy to make it faster. Also, make sure you take off your elytra before you hit them. Good places to practice mace are on the Theobald the Bird map or any sandbox server with dead bushes. The best mace and armor combination is double blast prot with a windburst 3 and density 5 mace. You can guarantee yourself a mace pop if you begin to go down whenever the firework noise finishes. You can counter a shield by backstabbing, and you can counter crystals by shooting them with a crossbow. If you get slow fall, try to drink milk away from the enemy so they don't see it. And that's all for the video. If you want any packs or mods shown in this video, then join the Discord in the description. They're all there. Consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 30,000 subscribers before 2026. Thank you guys for watching.